So in this video, I'm going to explain how dimensions work, dimensions of reality. And I'm going to explain to you exactly where the fourth dimension resides, the fifth dimension resides, and as a matter of fact, every other subsequent dimension that exists in all of creation. So for those of you that don't know who I am, my name's Zimmaron. I'm a spiritual teacher, a breakthrough specialist, a transformation coach. I help transform people's lives from the inside out and teach them everything that they need to know in order to truly become superhuman and be able to achieve and attain whatever it is that's their heart's desire. And I know for some people that might be a bold claim, but it's really quite easy to do and achieve and to accomplish. And it all starts with going within and clearing out everything that is not of you, that is not of love. It's as simple as that. So, the dimensions. Now, there's a lot of controversy around dimensions as far as there is some schools of thought that there's a certain number of dimensions before you reach God level of reality. And some people break down dimensions differently and everything like this. But I'm just going to keep things simple because all of that's heady stuff is just a waste of time and it really doesn't matter, all right? We're here for results. We're not here to stuff our heads with information that isn't going to yield us anything except for maybe a bigger ego and a headache and maybe 5 seconds of dopamine relief and euphoria, and that's about it, okay? So, what are dimensions, okay? Dimensions are just different frequencies of realities. Now, there are a higher level of dimensions, and then there are parallel levels of dimensions within the same spectrum or same frequency of vibration. Now, for simplicity's sake, the earth and this reality that we are embodied in is a third dimensional reality. Okay? It has 3 dimensions to it. And it's really as simple as we have length, width, and height that applies to, everything that you have. Everything has a length, width, and height to it. And that's what makes it 3D. Okay? That's what makes it in this dimension from this experience. It's what makes it real or seem like it's real. Okay? It's as simple as that. Now, 2-dimensional reality and 1-dimensional reality, you can't exist in that reality in a way that could be tangibly ever even expressed or even explained. So for a lack of better ways of saying things, the 3rd-dimensional reality is the lowest plane of creation. Okay, it's the densest plane of creation of where life can exist and where you can have fun, right? I look that way because there's a window there and over this great view of the hills. So anyway, the point is that the 3rd-dimensional reality is the lowest plane of creation. Now, for those that are into the whole spiritual side of things, what is happening is that the earth itself and this reality that we are experiencing is going through one of its cycles, because everything happens in cycles. So what's happening is that we're evolving as a part of some of those cycles into a higher dimensional reality. So we're moving out of the third dimensional reality into the fourth dimensional reality, and then into a fifth dimensional experience. At least that is what has been prophesied, and that is what we know and understand to be the age of enlightenment, the new age of Aquarius, the age of love, whatever you want to call it. But the point is that there's an evolution taking place. And we know that that's a fact because you can actually just tell. For those of you that don't know, I'm in my late 40s, I'm almost 50. 20 to 30 years ago, if you mentioned yoga or meditation to people, everyone would have thought you were a nut bar and that you were a part of a cult. And if you actually look back even further than that, it was even far worse than that. Yet today, everyone's doing yoga, and if you don't do yoga, you're not cool. Everyone's doing meditation. If you don't do meditation, then you're not hip and you're not cool. If you talk to anyone about the concept of we're all interconnected, we're all one, and all of those sort of loosely adhered to spiritual concepts, a lot of people are open to it. A lot of people acknowledge that there is a soul. A lot of people believe that there's reincarnation. A lot of people believe that there's more to this reality than what we perceive in the physical realm. And what I'm saying is proof of this evolution that's taking place is that even just decades ago, that stuff was nowhere near in the mainstream as it is right now. And that's a fact. And that's because there is a great awakening that is taking place. Because, for a lack of better words, things aren't really looking that crash hot out in the world for a large portion of the population. Things are looking worse. We've had major global shutdowns. The economy is looking very, very bad globally, worldwide. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of deceit and manipulation and things coming into light through the media and various sources of things that people never would have even thought possible. And there's an overall widening of the gap between certain groups of people and other groups of people. There's a greater divide that's taking place. Now, one would say, well, if we're heading into a more spiritual consciousness and there's a great awakening happening, wouldn't that be the opposite? And the answer is no. As a matter of fact, it would not be the opposite, because a part of that mass awakening that's taking place, and all that's happening is that at some point in time, certain individuals will awaken to the fact that in order for me to be able to function in this world and to find solace and to find happiness and to find joy and to navigate the madness and the craziness and the things that just seem off and are difficult to even deal with and navigate, it turns them inwards and it makes them awaken to the possibility that there is some higher force, that there is solace from the inside out, that you can find that love and that you can actually move energy and remove things outside of that are inside of you and heal from a lot of the craziness that you may or may not experience in your life, and certainly have experienced in your life. You start realizing how conditioned and how programmed you have been, how the outside world is fairly much an illusion, and that when you align with the oneness, with the quantum field, with love and your higher self, that magical things start happening, synchronicities start happening, that reality is not exactly what you thought it was, right? But what usually will facilitate that is people hitting rock bottom in some way, shape, or form, or it gets triggered by a certain circumstance or situation. Healers, there's just many different ways that suddenly something just pops on the inside and you start looking at the world through a different lens, and you start becoming, for lack of a better word, more spiritual. So what's happening is that as we're evolving out of the third dimensional realm and consciousness into a fourth dimension, and then eventually a fifth dimensional reality, the planet's vibration is increasing. And if the planet's vibration is increasing due to more love and more light that it's taking on and that it's receiving, then we are as well. And so what's happening is that when you receive more love and light, it starts pushing up and out all the non-love, all that is not of that, all the darkness, right? All of the illusion, all that is not of you. And we see that on a global scale right now, where it's the darkest and most beautiful time at the same time in this weird juxtaposition. And the only people, the people that do see the beauty are the people that are either in denial of all the bad stuff that's happening, or the people that are awakened and can see things for what it truly is and what's truly going on. And it's happening on an individual level too, right? So individually, people are going through their madness, and that's the reason why it seems like the world has gone crazy, because technically we have. All the craziness is coming out, and we're like these little children that are dealing with all of this craziness that's inside of us, all the stuffed and repressed emotions and all the trauma and all the negativity and all the things that we went through as individuals is all coming out to be dealt with, to be healed. And it's happening because the frequency and the vibration of the planet is increasing, and yours is as well. Okay? So this is all evidence of everything that I have just said. Now, the interesting thing about the fourth dimensional reality, okay, when a person awakens, and we can just say they have their spiritual awakening, that's when they tap into a fourth dimensional reality. Now, the fourth dimensional reality is actually accessed on the inside. It actually exists inside of you. Okay? Now, it gets reflected in the outer world as well by the acceleration of your ability to manifest things, the acceleration of synchronicities and miracles and blessings and all the magical, unexplained, weird sort of things that happen around you. And that is all the fourth dimensional stuff being made manifest in a world that's still grounded in a third dimensional reality as far as the collective consciousness is concerned. But your true access to the fourth dimension of existence, the fourth dimensional realms, is on the inside. It exists inside of you. Okay, because the 3D physical reality doesn't have anywhere to place that fourth dimension. This is actually an illusion. This is actually a hologram. What we're actually experiencing is reality is from the inside out. It's hard to explain. But what we think is the outer world is actually not real at all. It's not even real. Like it doesn't actually exist. It's for a lack of a better word, what you would think you'd be experiencing on the inside. Okay? But what you actually experience on the inside is tapping into the fourth dimensional realm. And so when you're on the inside, working on yourself on the inside, you have access and you're able to connect to that higher dimensional frequency, which then gives you access to higher dimensions, the ability to communicate with your soul, your higher self, in a greater way than you would if you weren't going inwards and doing the work. And that's the reason why I train people on meditation. That's the reason why I teach people that meditation is for communication. That's the only reason why it exists. That's the only way to communicate with the infinite realms. And it's to a degree true and to a degree not true, meaning it's the most efficient and most effective way, especially if you know how to communicate with it and what to ask for and how to engage with it and to get the most out of those communications, because you can quite literally transform your whole entire reality just by going within and creating and establishing a relationship with yourself, with your higher self, your God self, the infinite, the quantum field. And the cool thing is that science has proven a lot of what I'm saying as far as the interconnectedness of everything, the fact that the quantum field even exists, that it is potentially consciousness, that there are potentially infinite realities of existence that are able to be had, and that you are able to manipulate and control your reality from the inside out. And that's true even if you're not spiritual, and true even if you don't believe in all the woo-woo stuff. Because if you think about it, you know, your whole entire existence on this planet is perceived through your body, right? And what you experience. And depending on what belief systems or filters you have, that's going to determine how you react and respond to the physical realm, which directly impacts what you're able to accomplish, what level of happiness you have, why some people can do this and others can do that, what's going to give you fulfillment. You know, all of that sort of stuff is all determined by what is inside of you. So there's no greater place to create the ultimate form of transformation than to work on yourself from the inside. That is the fourth dimension, is your inner dimension. It's when you're able to consciously starting to interact with realms beyond the third dimensional reality. Okay, and that's usually, that opening happens, and that awareness happens, and the desire to go withinwards and the understanding that going withinwards is important happens when you have that spiritual awakening, whatever the trigger for that is. But usually with that spiritual awakening comes an awareness that everything's all one, that we're all interconnected. There's more to this reality than meets the eye, and that there's some higher powers at play, and that love ultimately is the ultimate power. When you start working on and realizing, wait a minute, I've been conditioned and I've been programmed. I need to let go of all this stuff that's holding me back, right? That's limiting me or impeding me, because now I realize that I'm not really a victim and that I have all the power to change everything in my life. And so a part of that spiritual awakening is reclaiming. That's why I do reclaiming sessions, reclaiming who you truly are and who you were born to be, and relinquishing the control of fear and no love, right? That has had control over you all your life, from all the conditioning and all the programming and all the things that you went through and were not equipped to deal with at the time. So, fourth dimensional realities on the inside. Now, it is true that as we head closer and closer and closer to this fifth dimensional reality, right? Whatever period of time that's going to take, and the planet's vibration is going to continue to increase. But it's also an explanation for the reason why technology is advancing so quickly and so fast, right? Because we're now tapping into more universal consciousness. We're wanting to play God, which is the whole point of AI, right? We're wanting to create life. We're wanting to play God, ultimately, because it's our innate understanding that we are the creator. We're one with the creator. And so it's this burning desire to be the creator. But it's also based on, you look at the types of discoveries and things that we're understanding now that we didn't understand before. That a lot of the spiritual concepts that ancient religions and philosophies have been teaching for millennia are now being validated by science more and more. You look at the different ancient civilizations that are now being still to this day discovered, yet we've had flight and we've had the ability to travel almost all over this planet, yet even to this day we're making absolute crazy discoveries. And now with the ability to do DNA testing and things like that, there's a lot of things that have been discovered that are defying logic and explanation. And it's happening because as the vibration of the planet increases, we're having more and more access to universal knowledge and wisdom. And it's sort of like unlocking these time locks that we couldn't perceive before. And I know that I'm getting really, really out there maybe, and you might not even be following what I'm saying, but what I'm saying is that there are certain discoveries in this third dimensional reality that could not have been discovered and would never have been discovered and we would have been blinded to finding until the planet reached a certain level of vibration and frequency, which is commensurate with a more fourth dimensional frequency. Okay? Now, people individually are all over the spectrum as far as how they perceive their reality and how they're able to manipulate reality and all of this sort of stuff, right? Because people that are still very fear-based and very grounded in the third dimensional reality, no matter what you tell them, they cannot perceive or understand some of the things that I would be speaking about. They might even be open to the possibility of it, but a lot of the times if they're staunchly shut down and just shut it all down and think that you're just a kook, it's usually because they genuinely are not able to even be open to that possibility. It's so outside of the realm of their reality. And if you actually think back to yourself prior to your awakening and some of the crazy belief systems that you had back then that we now deem as being crazy, you would have to acknowledge and understand, yeah, I was very shut down too. And I had a lot of crazy belief systems that were very limiting and very constricting. And now the experiences that I'm having and the reality that I live in is so different compared to then, just because I've increased my vibration, I've done more work on myself, and I am accessing more of that fourth dimensional realm. So let's talk about the fifth dimensional realm, okay? Now, the fifth dimension in and of itself is where the majority of the consciousness is in a state of unconditional love. So in the fourth dimensional realm, because it's a higher frequency than the third dimension, your thoughts become a reality faster, okay? And that's why it's so important that when you become spiritual, you have your awakening, that you truly work on yourself and that you are so diligent on removing all the non-love that's inside of you and dealing with your emotions and your trauma and all of that sort of stuff, because your thoughts become your reality quicker and quicker and quicker the more that you raise your vibration and the more that you're able to raise your vibration. And so what happens is that the karma of what you put out there comes back at you harder and faster. You're being held to a higher level of accountability, not because there's entities or God looking down upon you and punishing you or anything like that, but because you're tapping into a higher frequency of reality, and the energies are always needing to be balanced. And so when you put out negative energy, that comes back at you. In order for you to do that, you actually have to lower your vibration and change your vibration into that in order to be able to send it out, right? And in order to have those type of thoughts and to allow it to be perpetuated and projected in a victim way. Because I have to make a distinction from that versus something's coming up for you, anger, hurt, frustration, pain, or whatever else, and you heal it, you let it go, you release it so that it's no longer inside of you, but you're not using it as a way to attack and to send out non-loving vibrations, which includes blame, shame, guilt, anything at all that's not of purest of unconditional love. So when you lower your vibration, you're doing harm to yourself and you're allowing those energies into you, and it will wreak havoc. And that's the reason why mental health is such a giant thing right now on this planet, like mental health awareness, or anxiety and depression. The reason why that's happening is because people are fighting the natural evolution that's taking place, the awakening that's taking place. And it's not due to anyone's fault. It's like, but if you just don't know what's happening, you don't understand it. And we're taught to repress and suppress, and that we're not meant to feel this way and all of this sort of stuff. Then you're just aggravating the problems, and it amplifies and it makes things worse. And then you have to go onto medication and all of that sort of stuff to mitigate and to repress the emotional body and what's happening inside of you, which I'm not going to talk about right now. That's a separate subject, and I've got other videos where I do get into some of that stuff. But the point that I'm trying to make is that at some point, every human being has to start choosing love versus non-love. For real. For real. Without the gray zone. We, in the third dimensional realm, we could get away with almost anything because everything happens so slowly. So when you had a negative thought or you did harm, the karma of that could take lifetimes in some cases to come back at you, or it would just take a long time. It would be slower. The ramifications wouldn't be as overt, okay? But that's what's changed. And that's what's throwing people for a loop, is because the higher your vibration and the more you're able to tap into the higher dimensional frequencies, which you can't fake, by the way. A lot of people out there that think they're way more evolved than they truly are, and they're just actually making things up in their head. But that's another story. But the point is, when you're choosing love versus non-love. When you're feeling that true heart opening and that heart space inside of you. That's something that cannot be faked. It can never be faked. When you're in heart, mind, gut coherence, where everything's all functioning as one properly, and you're actually in tune with your higher self, and you're not living from a survival stress place, which only happens when you're buying into the illusion of the outer world, and you're buying into that third dimensional lower frequency of reality. And so the more that you evolve, the more that you tap into the higher realms, the more accountability that's required, the more responsibility that's required, because as beautiful and as wonderful as all of the gifts and the feeling of love that you can experience inside, it can also be a double-edged sword and become your greatest source of pain, suffering, misery, and an antagonist. And that's the reason why when I look in social media and I look at different Facebook groups, spiritual Facebook groups and things like that, and I read through some of the comments and some of the things that people are going through, not only are the reactions and responses by people in the comments, and a lot of the time, and not saying all the time, are way off base, because you've got the same people on at the same level, counseling people at the same level. And so they're perpetuating a sort of delusion with one another and not actually getting at what's really happening and transpiring as far as why they feel the way they feel and what's going on with them and inside of them. And a lot of the times the problem is that they think that there's something wrong with them and they think that they're broken. And all that's really going on is that they're just repressing and suppressing things that are needing desperately to get expressed in a healthy way and get moved. out of the body, right? And out of your ecosystem because it's not of love. And again, every human being is slowly but surely getting forced to have to shift and change and start dealing with their shit. Pardon my French, but it's ultimately the truth. And it's going to get worse. And it's going to continue. And if you fight it, you can't. You'll just cause more pain and suffering. And eventually, if you fight it long enough, you'll fairly much have to leave the planet. You'll just exit somehow. And it's just the way it is, okay? It's not a punishment or whatever else. It's an evolutionary process that we're going through. This is the single most beautiful thing that has ever happened on this planet, certainly for millennia, okay? Millennia. And that's the reason why there's so many people, extraterrestrials, entities, etc., from so many different realms embodying on this planet just to be here, just to watch this process, just to be a part of it. It's almost like all eyes are on us because what we're going through in a span of a couple of 100 years is literally millennia worth of karma and transformation and healing and releasing and all of that sort of stuff. So, fifth dimension, that's our destination at this period of time. The fourth dimensional reality is already upon us. And like I said, the level of accountability and responsibility for what's going on inside of us is ever becoming more and more important because it's directly impacting what's happening out in the world. It's also directly responsible for how smooth the transition is going to be, no matter what or how it's going to look, okay? But you have to understand that in order for the planet to get to a fifth dimensional consciousness, you need to be able to sustain your body in a fifth dimensional reality. So if your body cannot sustain itself in a fifth dimensional reality, then there's no way you're going to be able to, in this physical form, experience that fifth dimensional reality. And there is no way to know how that's going to look, what that transition is going to look. Is it something that we gradually evolve into? Will there be something sudden and cataclysmic that might end up happening that will cause the ultimate breaking and separation from the lower frequencies and the higher frequencies? It's impossible to say. But the one thing that's true is that the acceleration is happening and things are getting faster and faster and faster. And your only protection that, as I said, cannot be faked is you need to remove and let go of anything that is not of love, everything that is fear-based, everything that is of a lower vibration, and heal it, transmute it, release it, recode it, do whatever it is that you need to get it out. And the single fastest way to access that and to do that is by working with the emotional body, not suppressing it, working with it. Single fastest way. And this is what I teach. This is what I train people on. And, you know, honestly, it's the only way and it's the fastest way. And the coolest thing about it is that not only do you get to realize who you truly are and who you were born to be, not only in a general sense, but also in a very specific sense. But you actually get to start reaping the benefits of that in your life, in your relationship, in your businesses, in your interactions, in how you respond to the world and react to the world around you, in your health, in your well-being, in the love that you feel inside, not only for yourself, but for everything. But it's a difficult process because you have to, in some cases, feel that pain and that hurt. But when you have the right framework in place inside of your belief systems and so forth, it's so much easier, and it's not overwhelming. It's not that difficult, I guess is the only word I can sort of think of right now, to do it. It's not. It just requires action. It requires being conscious. But the fifth dimension, it exists inside of the fourth dimension. That's where it actually really resides. And as you tap into it on the inside, and the more and more you become that fifth dimensional consciousness, the more that your physical body will vibrate at that vibrational level, and the more that your outer reality will reflect that consciousness, even while you're on this planet. That is how the dimensions work. And within the fifth dimension is the sixth and seventh and eighth and all the other dimensions and all of that. Now, a lot of people say, well, what level is God at? You know, what dimensional level is God at, and all of that sort of stuff. And, you know, different traditions have different numbers and ways in which it tries to quantify and quantitate all this sort of stuff. And I honestly just don't care, because it's irrelevant. You know, that sort of information is really more ego-based because it doesn't really matter. People can claim whatever they want. I really don't care what people claim. The proof is always in the pudding, number one. And number two is, who cares? It's just ego and vanity in the first place. Who cares? If you do what you need to do, and you follow your inner guidance, and you become the greatest love that you have ever known to yourself and to the world around you, then does it really matter if you're at 4.78 dimensional frequency, or whether you're at the 6.732, which couldn't be possible because you can't go beyond what is going to allow you to sustain your physical body in this realm, right? You can't go beyond that. You can access information from some of those higher realms, absolutely, by meditating, by going within. But see, a lot of what people pursue, opening the third eye and tapping into the higher realms and all of that, a lot of it's done for the wrong reasons. And the interesting thing about it is that when it's done for the wrong reasons, you're actually not really tapping into what you think that you are, because you wouldn't actually be able to, because your consciousness is actually at a lower vibration. You could be getting misled in some ways, or you could be just actually manufacturing it inside of you ultimately. You see, this whole discussion and everything that I'm sharing, there are fail-safes built in. There's no way around the real work. There's a saying, I think it's from the Bible, and the meek shall inherit the earth. And that's the whole point. Who cares? No one's better than you. No one's worse than you. We're all one. We're all ultimately God, experiencing ourselves from a microscopic aspect of creation. That's it. So who's at this level? Who's at that level? What level is this? And blah, 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 blah. And all the heady stuff is just distraction and really a waste of time. Besides, shouldn't you just be in love? Shouldn't you just be experiencing what you need to and let whatever needs to come up work itself out and be proactive about it and just live your best possible life and be sharing everything that you have inside of you with as many people as you possibly can without beating them over the head and forcing people into your narrative and your belief system, because unconditional love doesn't do that. Love without conditions doesn't do that, because every single person is perfect. It's one thing if someone's asking you for something. It's another thing when you're throwing it at them and beating them over the head with a Bible or a book or a belief system, because no one's actually wrong. From their perspective, every single person is right. 100% right. And they have every evidence to prove that. Because we all create our reality from the inside out. So to judge people and criticize people and to do the things that we see out in the world, in the media, and the way people treat one another if they don't believe in the same beliefs as them, and the craziness around that is just, it just comes from naivety. And it doesn't mean that you have to condone people's actions. It doesn't mean that you have to interact with them and be buddy-buddies with them. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying, be the example and send them unconditional love. Because if it's truly unconditional love, how do you know that you won't facilitate their awakening? Or how about the fact that maybe you're wrong? Maybe I'm wrong. You see, I don't care. I don't care whether people agree with me or not, whether people believe what I have to say. I welcome all feedback and I always take it in, process it, and if there's something for me to glean or gain from it, I will utilize it and I will correct whatever it is that I say and that I teach, or I will add to it. It's irrelevant to me. I really don't care, because at the essence of everything I teach that is immutable and cannot be argued against is that love and choosing love is going to improve your life no matter what. Because you're going to feel better, you're going to be happier, and that's going to spread onto and with other people, and it's going to make them happier. And so therefore your whole reality is going to become better. I also am not of the teaching that you should deny what's going on inside of you, because it's hurtful and it's harmful to self. And I've hopefully illustrated that in this and in a lot of my other content. But at the end of the day, I'm just teaching people to be loving and kind. And if people have a problem with that, okay, well, what's the alternative? You want people to be angry? You want people to be hurting and harming one another? You know, you can say that, well, I don't agree with you about the dimensions and I don't agree with you with where the planet's heading and all of that. And it's like, okay, I don't care. That's fine. don't. I don't care at all. Like, I seriously 100% do not care. If what you're living is working for you 100% in all areas of your life, that's great. But I'm not going to sugarcoat it, right? I'm not going to sugarcoat it. My way is not easy, and it can be painful, and it can be difficult, because when you have to face some of your trauma, some of the pain, the suffering that you've been through, and in order to release it and let it go permanently, because if it's there to be felt, it exists. That's what people don't understand. If it's inside of you there to be felt and it's coming up as a negative emotion, it's there to be felt. And when you feel it, you're giving it permission to be released and to be let go of. It's pretty simple. 1 + 1 = 2 as far as I'm concerned. And it's worked 100% of the time for me, and 100% of the time for everyone that has done the same that I am aware of. Thus far, I have never heard of anybody that has done that, meaning in a healthy, proper way, dealt with the feelings and the things that are coming up for them and letting it go, that has not yielded positive results in their lives. In some cases, dramatically positive results. So, anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Obviously, the explanation of how the dimensions work really also ties into everything to do with you realizing who you truly are and who you were born to be, and to become the most loving individual that you possibly can. And if you watch some of my other videos on this topic, you'll hear a lot of different other things about love, because love is really, really misunderstood on this planet. Please share, like, comment, do whatever you can to please help get this information out there if you found it to be valuable. I apologize for it being so long, but I want to give value and I want to explain things properly, and it's difficult to do that in a 5-minute video. But also, please make sure to join my free Facebook group, get into some of my free courses and programs. If you want one-on-one coaching where I can quite literally blow your mind away and help you become the master of your reality and to transform you from the inside out in the single fastest way possible, because obviously I'd be coaching you one-on-one, then please ask. And or join some of my coaching programs and group programs and things like that are also equally as powerful, but obviously doesn't have the one-on-one component. And otherwise, keep consuming my free content, and remember, just do the best you possibly can. Don't judge yourself. Don't criticize yourself. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You're not damaged. We've all just been conditioned and programmed. That's all. And we're going through a transition. It's beautiful. It's amazing. It's one of love. But when you pull in that love, some of that no-love has to come out. And why wouldn't you want it to? Because the end result of that is pure love. And that's where the magic really resides. Thank you.